It is a life choice. Being a founder is a life choice.
Is it worth it? That's my question.
Yes, you always sacrifice something. There's a phase for everything in life. I have to spend more time in solitude than I'd love to sometimes. But it's fine. I could also be in a relationship and be like, oh, fuck, I wish I would have gotten to that conference now. And now I can't because I've already been to two and now I can't go there and can't win business. And
Some founders talk about building. Philipp Zentner actually builds the future.
CEO and co-founder of LI.FI, the infrastructure powering real cross-chain movement.
A mind sharp enough to decode DeFi and bold enough to redefine it.
Relentless focus, relentless execution. That's the energy he brings to this industry.
This is Philipp Zentner.
I think it is so peaceful to have routines. When I'm in my hometown in Berlin, in my apartment, I'm really into coffee. I have my coffee making routines. Friends from Berlin, I rarely see them clearly messing out on enjoying and embracing friendships. I purposefully decide this is not the time to date. This is the time to win. I spent 20 years kind of failing to get to a point where I have something that is winning. Now I want to keep on winning. That's a choice. My personal development grew step function wise, and now it's already good.
Hey builders, this is Catherine, your host at the Buildooor podcast, a talk show where we share unfiltered thoughts and hard truth from the builders shaping crypto. Today, I am joined by Philipp Zentner, CEO and co-founder at LI.FI. Hi, hello. Hi, Philipp.
Catherine,
Thank
hi.
you so much for joining. Thank you. Excited to have a conversation with you. Could you just maybe start with a warm-up that you usually give to VCs about LI.FI and about yourself, just a little bit. Just give us a one-liner.
Oh, the one-liner, difficult
Yeah.
one. So LI.FI is a meta aggregation platform and routing platform for DeFi liquidity. Any liquidity that sits on chain can be routed in the sense that you go from one position to another, no matter if you need to swap or to bridge or to zap into a smart contract.
Well, sounds pretty solid though. I'd consider investing. Just we're gonna try to be as easygoing as possible. Sometimes sarcastic. Please do not take this personal. We just want to have fun and have valuable conversations, for the record. So, as this is the podcast that is called the Buildooor, what we're talking about is about founders, their days, their operations, the decisions that they make, and the price that they're paying for that. Okay, I mean, kidding, but only partially. Could you please let us know, what does your typical day look like as a founder, but also as a human being who is a founder? So walk us through that. So you wake up, are you a 5 a.m. club morning person, or, your
Absolutely
time? All right. Just a lot of founders swear by it, and it's just personally not my thing. So yeah, walk us through your typical day.
So my life is dominated by traveling. That means in average every 10 days I'm in a different city. I travel a lot between in and out of New York and Berlin, but overall every 10 days somewhere else, which means I often fight jet lags. I try to avoid time zone gaps as much as possible, but they are unavoidable at the end of the day. And therefore, the 5 a.m. club is off the table for me. However, I'm fine with 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and I wake up early, naturally. So I used to be a night owl back then, but that kind of like reality has put me into a more rigid sleeping schedule. And that's also an important part of my life, that I try to sleep well. However, my typical day is in the morning. I wake up with coffee, do sports. Right before I check my messages often, and I'm trying to get better at not checking my messages first thing. So I'm trying to wake up, get into rehydrate, do some sports in the first place.
What kind of sports?
But like 50.
I'm gonna stop you right there. What kind of sports keeps you awake or relaxed? What would you prefer? Is it tennis,
It's
swimming, gym?
running, yoga, and gym.
Ooh, wow. Okay, running, yoga, and gym.
Yeah,
Writing this down.
yeah.
All right, writing this down. All right. Do you find that this is something that keeps you grounded or gives you energy, or why those?
Running really gets my head free. And I'm getting stress release. Exercise is very important, also a great stress release. And yoga is really a great reminder of, it just reminds me of my body. So everything makes me feel my body, but yoga really always reminds me of eating healthy and taking care of myself, and takes breathing into account, and meditation. So I practice Jivamukti, which is like as almost as strict as Ashtanga, same sequence, but it is a very holistic concept with meditation, chanting, and all of that. I do that for almost 10 years. And yeah, yoga is a big part of my life, and
Well,
yoga philosophy.
they say that yoga kind of, well, it has a lot of advantages for sure. And I'm not here to tell people something new about this, right? But given what you just said, would you recommend yoga to every single crypto founder out there?
To anyone, doesn't matter what you
To
are and who
anyone?
you are.
All right.
There is a saying that yoga is for everyone, and that is indeed true. It really brings body and mind together in a very unique way. And you might say, yeah, sure, I have the same thing with running and gym. I do all of that since I can think. So yoga hits you differently.
All right. Here's a hypothetical. Do you think that if every single person in crypto did yoga, we would have a much more relaxed industry, or less bear markets, or no, less volatility? Let's go with that. Or how would that be different? Or maybe
No.
less hacks? Can you imagine people just like coming into terms with themselves and realizing that stealing someone else's money is not something good that you would like to live with, and not do any attacks or hacks or stuff like that, right? Do you think that we would see less, less bad actors in the space with yoga?
So maybe less hacks because people make less errors because their mind functions better. If people would live after yogic philosophy and incorporate yamas and niyamas, they would certainly not hack and show malicious behavior. But so yamas and niyamas is how we behave to ourselves and others. But I would, yeah, maybe it brings you closer to your true self. And I ultimately believe that there is no evil. I think that people are ultimately good, but then they are driven by their environment to act differently. They are socialized by their environment, and that brings in the evil side of people, right? Not sure if yoga is going to change anything there,
That is an
but
interesting philosophy. I don't think I've met a lot of people in the space with this philosophy. I've met people that I would call a true evil that is standing in front of me, but not people who, think about the world like that. I will get back to your no evil philosophy in a little bit, and I'm sorry I kind of distracted you from your day. So,
no,
and
it's
here's the
fine.
thing. I would love to have this particular part as a teaser, or as a very, hopefully very catchy, engaging one-liner to this podcast about yoga and its effect on crypto. All right. So going back to your day, right? So sports, coffee, or coffee sports, and then not checking emails. Hopefully, I've heard that there is a thing in the first hour of you waking up. It's better not to have any interaction with your phone. So it kind of sets up your day in the right way. But then you do what after all of those rituals? Let's call them
My
rituals.
my day consists of a lot of work, and my work by now. So the company is 100 people big. It
Ooh,
is all
100 people.
communication. So it's chats, it's calls, and there's nothing else anymore. I have very little focus time, but I also only need focus time in different phases. There are phases where I am requested as a very active hands-on leader. And then there are phases where I need to pull out a bit, zoom out a bit, think about strategy, market positioning, the story, and then there, like when we work towards fundraisers, for example, or thinking about our brand and strategy, we are at a point after 4 years, and now with the size we have, that lots of my actions have longer term horizon and impact. Therefore, my all day changes. And then obviously there are lots of conferences. So in conferences, my own conferences are very optimized. I barely get to see anything else in hotel lobbies in these weeks, and some events where I'm speaking, but that's it. So yeah, not that exciting, honestly. Content wise, very exciting. There's so much
All
happening.
right.
But if you put a cam like above me, like a drone that has me, that drone would be bored as fuck. That board would be like, okay, I'll just chill in that room here, and yeah, lots of conversations, lots of chatting, and conversations.
I do have follow-ups on a lot of conversations because you're, talking to me, and it requires a lot of energy and time of your schedule. But then going back to what you said, and I really like that. So there are different things where you're supposed to be hands-on, and different things that you're supposed to be hands-off. Are you the kind of person who likes to micromanage, or you really love to set people free and let them do that? And what kind of verticals are you particularly involved? Because you said, there are several things that you definitely are involved in, and I understand maybe talking to investors, obviously being a face of the company, but then what else? And where would you like to see yourself, or your team would like to see you hands off?
No, I think hands on versus micromanagement. If I need to micromanage someone, he needs to get fired. He'll be fired pretty soon. So the way we hire people is um, by finding people that I know I can delegate ownerships to, not tasks. And when I transfer ownership, I trust that person to execute things end to end. I, you know, I don't need to manage anything. I'm hands off. We talk for alignment and overall direction, but I will not manage that person. And that's how we have grown the company fast, by searching for personality profiles that fit that. And then there's a lot of trust involved in letting people run as fast as possible into the direction they were given, or they decided to run into, and we signed off to it. That's how we operate. But obviously there are phases that have to be more hands-on. For example, if we want to win back a seemingly lost deal, I'm getting very competitive, and I'm going in there, and then I would even take a flight to the customer. Like, I fight for things if I need to. And then I'm being very hands-on. Then I push everyone into a war room and let them run to win back that client. But apart from that, I'm just responsible for overall direction, strategy, product positioning.
Well, you've mentioned that, you're looking for ownership and people that you hire. Does this mean every single chain of subordination, if you will? So from a top manager or an executive to just an employee or a social media intern, are you looking for ownership in all of them? Yeah.
I look for ownership and high level of agency on everyone. Yes.
Right.
Ultimately, those are people that are willing to grow. They are willing to think outside the task scope and think bigger and think about the next step. They own it, and I think I'm looking for that everywhere. Yes.
Well, here's the thing. In the sort of relationship, founder's vision versus employees, sometimes there is a gap, right? Sometimes people think that they know better than the founder, but then at the end of the day, you have to realize that you're fulfilling someone else's vision or your team's vision. So it's not only about you. How do you find the right people? And I think this is a pretty, like, a painful point for a lot of people. I know. The hiring process is rigged. This is the line that every single LinkedIn post starts with these days. But but let's be honest. How do you at LI.FI looking to hire people? Where do you find them, and what makes you say, yeah, this is the person? Like they're the fit.
It's a matter of values. So first of all, you have to have some, maybe define them. We call it core values. And we find them in all the ways possible. We prefer referrals, but also we have lots of applications on our open roles, careers.li.fi, where we find, where people just find us and apply. And we have found many great people via those channels. And apart from that, we have a very rigid hiring process, which really got fluctuations down heavily. And and we keep on refining the process over and over. But we are very good at hiring, I would say. And the way we got there is simply because I made sure that the first 20 hires are just like top notch. I decided early for very senior management. So crypto is very young. Our head of sales, or our chief commercial officer, has sold 3 software as a services beforehand as head of sales. So I was not looking for a good salesperson. I was looking for a good coach to build a sales engine. And same for our COO slash CFO. She is very experienced, and was like mid-40 and just has seen things. And yeah, I think that was a wise choice, leaning into seniority and onboard them into crypto. So where possible, going senior. That I think that was a wise choice. It also has bitten us in the ass, where we're like, fuck, we need something more DeFi native. But that's a learning curve, and you need to navigate that. And it depends on the role, whether that's necessary or not, and how much. And then we also have nice HR playbooks where we onboard people also to crypto from coming from outside. So yeah.
All right. So you've mentioned, that there are different aspects at this rigid process, right? Could you share the story of where you've been wrong in terms of hiring, or something that cost you a lot in terms of time, money, in terms of the hiring process, right? There was a person that you were completely off, something just wasn't right, but you didn't feel that at the start. So one of the, the tweaks, if you will, of the hiring process.
If you start building a company, and you're still small, a lot of the connections you're building with the first employees are very much on a friendship level. You build friendships because there is so much pain and banter, because there's so much room for it. There's so much room for banter and private stuff, because you're just 10 people and you hang out every day and you're excited and you are working a lot. So the depth of these very early relationships is deep, and that makes you blind. I'm not saying I regret any of building these deep relationships, but what I'm saying is, despite having very deep relationships and you think you're talking about everything, you should have regular, structured one-on-ones on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis to check in with everyone, purposefully talking about certain things. Are you happy in this company? How do you view this company in the market? Whatever, like having a structured conversation, checking in with these people to understand if they're really happy, and to give them a platform for that, because like doing all day banter and expecting them to just come to you, no, they might just already interview somewhere else, that was a learning. And then also, obviously, having these deep relationships and these things that feel like friendships makes it really hard to let these people go. And there are people that are a great fit for very early stage, but a horrible fit for later, especially in an industry that's so young. We have many people that fit into until you're 20 people, but the moment you have no more structure, or these people feel less seen than they felt day one, they either need to grow themselves into a position they either grow fast, and they either grow as fast as the company, or they gonna feel left behind at some point and will become demotivated and unhappy. And I think next time I would have a closer eye on that, fire faster, and or just make sure I have a person's personal growth more on my radar. There are many ways to address this, but that's something to be really aware of.
Obviously, it gets much more difficult once you scale, right? Because the bigger the company, the more difficult it is to manage every single person and have these one-on-ones. I do understand that. And to kind of sum up your thought on there, I would like to share a quote that I just heard from a co-founder and CEO of Good American. This is not a crypto company. This is a jeans or clothing company. But she said that, you still have to be a strong leader a great leader, sympathetic, but also you have to understand that the team that gets you to a 1 million revenue is not the same team that's going to get you to a billion or trillion million in revenue. So you have to understand that at some point, the landscape of the team will change. You have a website that I looked through, and what caught my eye, it wasn't that difficult because this was the latest article that you wrote, right? And it's titled "Don't Build That New Product" with an exclamation point. And I love that. I love that. But the phrase that stood out, one of the first ones as well, is you can't sacrifice anything, but you do have to make trade-offs everywhere. Do you think you can talk about the trade-offs that you had to make on the way here, especially given that your company is like 4 years old? So you've started since LI.FI since 2021, and obviously the decisions that you're making today are not the same that you made in 2021. So the trade-offs. Or you can just share what exactly did you mean by that? But I'm sensing a personal story.
I mean, we can take this on the personal side or in the context of the article. The article is about being focused, and the crypto market especially is very fast paced and just like driven by a new narrative every month or every quarter. Once a quarter, a new narrative, and depending on how large the vertical is you're in. Let's take, for example, the vertical we are in, which is, or it used to be, interoperability, and there are new narratives constantly. Chain abstraction, gas abstraction, account abstraction, intents, solver networks, solver coordination, whatever. Like there's so many narratives that come up, ZK, whatever. There is so much, like, it's very easy to get lost, and just because you have a good idea doesn't mean you have to follow it. Just because you have a good idea doesn't mean you have to build it. So it is the biggest challenge to remain focused on your execution, focus on your market positioning, and focus on distribution power versus like you need to grow your pie in a way that it creates a certain brand and network effect for you, versus trying to run after each and every opportunity. It's essentially like you have a great partner while looking at other girls. You're like, you need to stop. Like, it's not getting easier. It's just like looking left and right and then being flirty here and there. It all distracts you from deepening the relationship you have. Think about like that. Think about your company like that. It's essentially stick with what you have. If you have a certain degree of product market fit, which means people are buying your product, and be very careful and observant on when to make a good move. For example, there were two very large topics for LI.FI, which we didn't ignore, but we put them on the sideline. Big one was intents, and the other one was chain abstraction. We were really watching this on that one. I was stressing out about these narratives. I was like, damn it, and we had the luxury position of having so much demand that there was zero time for anything else. So we were just busy handling clients. There was just no resource to tackle any of that anyways. But at the same time, you have to make a decision. Is this something that could disintermediate me or harm my business or my market positioning in any other way? And if that is the case, wouldn't a pivot be smarter? So there is a lot to think about, and there are a lot of discussions to have about these things. However, you need to make sure that all these discussions and all these things have a room, a closed room, a room where not everyone is in, because you need to keep people focused. And I'm a very transparent person, but some battles you have to fight alone as a founder. Talk to investors that see the market, talk to other founders that see the market, talk to the people that would engage with these products. Like you have that potential buying person, the developer, the PM, whoever would buy into it. Ask yourself, talk to that person, right? Talk to the experts you have at hand, get a good gut, develop a good gut feeling about these things, and then look at timing. Everything is timing. With relationships, with business, when you started, when you build what. As a founder, your job is to build the right thing at the right time for the right person. And this is just very important to have in mind at all times. Very easy to get stressed out around new narratives, like, oh, this is the opportunity. I most often drove better with not building that new product. And then eventually maybe buy a company that didn't make it because they assessed the timing wrong. And that's what we did, essentially. So we watched, and then we bought the company the moment we felt that's the right timing. And they are now up for scoop. And that's very often like that. Like things that explode and are very successful, they were not the first having that idea. They just hit the timing right. That idea had 100 entrepreneurs beforehand. Facebook was not the first social network in that sense, right? Google was not the first search.
I would call this a little bit of unconventional idea because from my personal experience, founders typically want to have everything everywhere at the same time, which, as you mentioned, kind of it really destroys the focus on things and can or most likely will lead to the results that you don't really want. And I would agree with that. Hopefully, a lot of people who need to hear that will hear that, because this is a very wise thought, I would say. But you've mentioned there are personal trade-offs. I'm not gonna get you off that easily. So what are the personal trade-offs that you had to make, or sacrifices, if you will, for you to be where you are today?
I want to add something to the last one. I still am a person that wants to be everywhere at all times. But if you have product market fit, if you have enough demand, you have to build so much just around that keeps all your resources busy. And still within that microcosmos, there is so much to build, right? From value adding services and so on, and product improvements. So I'm still all over the place in sense of what I want, but I keep the cosmos in which I'm operating as reduced as possible. Now on the private side, sacrifices are plenty. Or the traveling doesn't allow me to date properly. Like building a foundation with someone is really hard because, as mentioned, every 10 days somewhere else, very tough. But it wins me deals. It wins me relationships in business. It deepens these relationships, maintains these relationships, and it allows me to execute way faster and win way faster. It is a life choice. Being a founder is a life choice, and it took me a while to realize, but at the end of the day, while it is a life choice, it is still my choice. So I purposefully decide this is not the time to date. This is the time to win. So I've been entrepreneur since I'm 15 years old. So I spent 20 years kind of failing to get to a point where I have something that is winning. Now I want to keep on winning, and that's a choice. And I very often meet someone I really like, I have great intimacy with, or like I vibe with that person. But for now, I'm not at the point where I want to deepen anything. I don't want to sacrifice anything. So the sacrifice here is maybe I have to spend more time in solitude than I'd love to sometimes. But it's fine, because the grass is always greener on the other side, I could also be in a relationship and be like, oh, fuck, I wish I would have gotten to that conference now, and now I can't because I've already been to two, and now I can't go there and can't win business. And, I see plenty of founders that are stuck on the other side and wish they were single. This is one thing. Also sacrifices, obviously, I think it is so peaceful to have routines. When I'm in my hometown in Berlin, in my apartment, I'm really into coffee. I have my coffee making routine. So I I have fresh beans in a vacuum sealed box. I smell them. I grind them freshly. I have my pour over coffee. All of that takes 5 minutes. My peaceful morning 5 minutes. It's like waking up, glass of water, peaceful coffee routine. Dear God, do I miss it. I've tried to replicate that stuff, you know, and in good hotels you have like a kettle, and I brought filters and so on. I had these phases. I also tried AeroPress and whatever, and different kinds
French
of
press,
coffee mechanisms.
probably.
Yeah, all of that, you know. But at the end of the day, I'm traveling so much, there's no room for it. I need it for clothes. Otherwise, I would wear the same thing every day. So clothes and shoes, and you know, I decided I can go out and buy proper coffee, but it is not my routine anymore, and I miss routines, and so I have to find new routines wherever I go. So staying in very good hotels helps. I can get my laundry done there. I have a good gym in there. That's very important, because back then I was saving on the hotels, so I always had to find a gym opportunity or to be able to do something else outside going for a run. I'm sacrificing my yoga routine a lot. I find it incredibly hard to find the peace. I have a travel mat, but often not the space for it. Doing yoga in my hotel room where I'm already working is not a vibe. Going into the gym in the hotel, not a vibe to do yoga, you know. And then often you don't have the classes at the level where I like them to have them. Ashtanga is not offered very often. Power Vinyasa maybe in the larger cities. Whatever. It's a pain, and then you need like ClassPath and Urban Sports Club in Europe and whatever. Like you try all these things. Like, of course you can make it happen if you want to, but if you have to find a new spot every week, it just gets so draining that you stop doing it at some point. So my yoga routine has suffered a lot. And
Coffee routine too. It's a trade-off from what I hear. It is. It is a
is
trade. Yeah.
is yeah, and then obviously seeing friends that have been there for years, friends from Berlin. I rarely see them. And then obviously once you see them again, there's so much to catch up on. You don't even know where to start. And you missed all the little jokes, the insiders from all these things they did together. You're like, oh fuck, you know, clearly missing out on enjoying and embracing friendships. Even more grateful than to still have them, but it is a sacrifice.
Well, hearing you saying all of that, I do have follow-ups on winning and stuff, but I don't want to make this into a therapy session. Maybe we should. Maybe that would get us a lot more.
I'm down. You know.
But the question that I really want to ask is, as you've mentioned, your focus right now is on winning and keep on winning, and you understand that there is so much going on that you're not a part of in terms of probably family members and friends. Am I making you feel worse saying that out loud? No. Oh, thank God. Is it worth it? That's my question.
Yes, you always sacrifice something, you know, and there's a phase for everything in life. I had so much fun in my 20s. I loved my student life. I had so much fun. And I have such great friendships, always had them. I'm super grateful for that. I have a good friend out of each period of my life. They stick around, even though we see each other only once a year, or maybe some of them just every 2 years. Totally fine. There's a time for everything. Right now, I'm 35. It's going well. So I will prioritize this for now. And I'm getting so much out of it in terms of personal growth, reflection. I see the world. Across the board, this is beneficial for me in my personal development and my future. And I'm happy. I'm generally happy and content with my decisions. It's just important to realize that everything is your decision. The day you want to change it, you can. And I'm aware of that. So as long as you do not suffer from the sacrifices you make. Stop suffering. That's a choice. It's still your choice to suffer from that. If the suffering is high enough, then you would change it. If you don't let it pain yourself that much, right? So you need a good mental model. You need mental clarity, and it's a mix of of many things. But I have developed that's what I mean. Like my personal development grew step function wise. And now it's all very good.
Thank you for being so honest and open about this. I think this will help a lot of people and they will relate to that a lot, because I think at one point or another in this industry, every single person who wants to achieve something is going through the same path. I do hear a lot about mental exhaustion. And, but as you said, it's a choice. It's a choice of what you do and how you do that, and suffering. So I'm really thankful for you. I'm really thankful that you mentioned all of that, because I think it will help a lot of people. But the left part of the conversation that I really wanted to touch as well is LI.FI, as we've already discussed. It was built in 2021, right? Today is 2025, November, the end of November. As a founder, a person in charge of a lot of people, of financing, responsible in front of investors, if I'm correct, if I'm not correct, please correct me, for the product, for the community. How is it different to run a company today than it used to be in 2021 when you started? Obviously, you started and it's a whole other conversation, but when you're set up a little bit, when you have a company, so how is that different from 2021, 2022 versus today? What do you focus more on? How do you deal with compliance, right? Or so how's that different?
Yeah. Oh, in all the ways. So day one, I was still helping develop the first version. I was still writing code. And I was involved in day-to-day product decisions. And I was networking like crazy, doing sales like crazy, just 15 calls a day, as much as I could. Very aggressive on that front. Now I'm essentially out of sales. I only get involved in sales where it matters, like big deals that are on the fence of being lost, enterprise deals. That's where I go out and go the extra mile. Like I would sit in a hallway waiting for the CEO to come down, like the literal Silicon Valley picture of someone going to the HQ and waiting down there. I would do that. That is my attitude towards sales. But overall, sales is one of the many things I got to delegate to people that are more experienced than me. That's why I told you in the beginning, like I hired a chief commercial officer early on that is experienced. The sales team does sales. The marketing team does marketing. And I'm way more involved with legal stuff and fundraising and overall strategy alignment. However, I will say I'm a very present CEO. I'm reading a lot. I'm engaging a lot across the board, by the way. I'm still going through Jira tickets and GitHub pull requests just to be present. Also not to lose my technical side. I really miss programming. I haven't touched my IDE in years. Like the IDE is the editor in which you code. And I just haven't done this in a while, which is really sad. I miss problem solving on that level. But a lot is story and understanding market dynamics. My job is to understand the market at any point, understand the status quo, where we are coming from, why are we here, where is it going, and project my company into that world. And based on that, make the right calls, what to build at which time. And there is a lot of past, present, future you have to outline in order to, you need to understand so that you can resolve issues from the past, and you need to understand the future to prepare for that future. And you need to understand the present to never lose momentum and traction and aggressiveness. So there is a lot to comprehend, and that takes tons of conversations, and it actually needs breaks. And that's one thing I'm not good at, is like taking enough breaks. Well, I'm getting better, but yeah, I try to have plenty of conversations to understand where things are going and trying to make the right calls. To never get stuck in my own ass. This is like difficult.
I can imagine that it is. Here,
Sorry. Choice of words, Philip. Choice of words.
I mean, I think it was a great choice of words for our podcast. Here's the thing, right? You've been here for quite some time, and there are obviously cycles of, well, the bear market is the time when it's all about technology and, hoping and buying in. Obviously, the bull market is speculation and making as much money as possible. No one is talking about building anymore. So I'm actually glad that we're talking today rather than a couple of months earlier, because it's a different sentiment. So obviously, it's just ups and downs of different sides of the same circle that is market, whether it's just a traditional financial market or stock market, if you will, futures and crypto. It is what it is. I've been here for almost 9 years. I know, like, it's pretty much like you can't surprise me anymore. And but there are obviously newcomers every single day, hopefully, for the industry, and a lot of ambitious, very young, unexperienced in a way, people who are just, the drill. Yeah, I'm gonna launch a company. I'm gonna put DeFi on it and bridge. So I'm not saying about you specifically, but it's just like, because these are the buzzwords, and I'm gonna put them on the website, on my product. So what would you recommend them to think about before launching? Maybe you will recommend them not to ever launch. Maybe you would say, hey, wait a little bit. Don't do this in a bear market. Or, hey, this is pro crypto era right now, given the US White House connection to crypto and relationships with crypto. So maybe it's the time to launch. So what would you recommend to a newcomer, a freshly minted CEO and founder? What would your advice be?
I mostly ignore market cycles. I don't look at the price. I can't tell you when the last time was I looked at the ETH price, and I'm literally over leveraged ETH. Like I have everything in ETH essentially, ETH long ETH. And last time I checked the price, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I don't know. I don't care. As long as I'm not getting liquidated, because
the market cap, any crypto, you haven't checked anything. That's what you're saying, right? All right.
Exactly.
All right.
So which means is the way I'm understanding it's bear or bull is essentially based on Twitter. But even there, I think
Checks out.
you need to build something. Again, you need to solve a problem that someone has today, no matter bear or bull. And if that's the case, people will buy from you. And if not, then build something else. Then you're building the wrong thing. And then obviously it's always nice to be ready in the bull. A bull is for building as much as bear. Just in the bull you have to work extra hours. Well, we always work extra hours. Like it's no difference. But the bull is more stressful. Just the bull is more stressful because more people are launching. And also, it depends on your business. So you might run into scaling issues. So last year our servers were burning. There was tech debt. That was simply because we grew fast. We had technological debt. And the last bull market 1 year ago really showed us we need to prioritize cleaning up, which we did this year. Was wholesome, because now it's like highly scalable. It's finally. It was an issue 2 years ago as well. Actually, our servers have been burning every year, which is a luxury position. Again, happy about that. But now we have finally resolved everything, and it's like highly scalable, which is great. So you might want to think about technological depth and scalability before the bull. something to address in the bear maybe. That's a good thing. At the same time, you need to build what wins you the next deal. You need to build today what wins you the next deal.
What do
That's
you mean
always
by
how we've been
that? The new
operating.
funding round, or just expanding
No,
the company, or
no, just like winning like sales. Like what gets you the next client,
all right.
right? You need to build for that. So no matter what you do, you need to talk to as many clients, potential clients as possible, and build what they need. That's it. That's
But
your sole job.
I understand the philosophy of thinking about what's gonna kind of bring more money, but have you thought about ethics of that? Because you can actually cater to hackers as well. You know what I mean? I know you said there is no evil, but there are definitely cases like, the infamous FTX and people losing a lot of money, and there's a lot of trauma. But yeah, ethics of thinking about the next deal and the next company. Would you advise people to look into that? Because this is not a conversation that is going on in crypto, but I personally would love to have one with every single person. But do you know what I mean? Like, do you think about the product in terms of does it bring good, or does it make lives better? Is it something that facilitates something, or it's
I
just
don't
about the
understand.
market demand?
I don't really understand the relationship between ethics and product development choices. You make product development choices based on what your customers want, right? And of course, ethically, it should be nothing illegal. It's
All
like
right, this
if
is
someone, I mean,
fair point.
I mean, like
It's
if your
good that it's
customers
on the
ask
record.
you, of course, whatever you do, it should be legal. No, but like the ethics relations, I don't really get. Can you clarify
I think it's my personal trauma. Working
on
in media
what?
companies and making decisions about the integrity of journalism versus yet another sponsored story that is on your website and kind of presents not the brand that you would like to have. I think this is personal for me, the ethics of that, whether to have advertisers as one day meme coins or scammy companies to be advertisers for your website just to get the piece of the cake today rather than thinking long term and have more trustworthy advertisers. But again, this is just see, I have a
Yeah,
lot of
no.
trauma from this.
In product development, it's simply you obviously you have a roadmap on what to build, and to decide what to build always depends on customer demand. Like, what does your customer want, right? That's why you're having a business in the first place, because you solve a customer's problem. So you have to understand what is your problem, what else is your problem, how can I make this even more convenient for you? So and for that you need to talk to your customers. And I mean, I'm talking from a B2B standpoint right now. In a B2C context, also important to understand. But obviously in B2C, things can be way more deceiving than B2B, I would argue. And obviously crypto is famous for scam and so on. Like wherever there is a lot of money to be made, there's scam, right? Like just on the blockchain, it's easier to point fingers. In the financial market, the crypto is just like the financial market and small and transparent. It's so easy to look at it and be like, wow, scammy, scammy. But financial market, same. Look at them. It's just easier
There,
to hide. It's not on the blockchain.
yeah, a lot to unravel there as well. And my final question would be also kind of an address to people who are listening and thinking about launching a company, becoming a founder, because, as you mentioned, it's a choice. And I think it might even be a calling because not every single person could be a founder. Not only like and not only physically but mentally as well. It's a choice and it's a calling, I believe. So the question again, we are in a bear market, so this one is specifically harder to address today. And also, we are in what a lot of media believe to be an AI bubble that it's about to burst. And that's why there is this huge stock market kind of bloodness, if you will, along with the crypto markets. I'm not saying that they're related, but I'm not establishing that. But the fundraising, that's my question. How would you recommend to go about that? Actually, both in bull market and in bear market. But this time around, how would you recommend to go about that? Would you recommend just to a good old ICO, bring them back? I'm kidding, hopefully, or institutional investors or VCs, and how should a potential founder go around that if they need funding?
This is the point. If you need funding, it's already a bit too late. If you can raise before you need funding, it's easier to raise in the bull at a higher valuation than it is in the bear market. I, funny enough, raised all our rounds in bear markets. I've never raised in the bull, which sucks. I wish I would have raised in the bull. But I always raised money as I needed it. And so, for example, our Series A required me to talk to 300 VCs. 300. I'm not exaggerating. I had them on a list. So at some point I even stopped listing because I was like done with listing. I exhaust. And one of our investors made a tweet about it and was like, okay, this guy exhausted the market. I spoke to everyone and their mother if they want to invest. That was quite a pain. So if you can raise in the bull market, raise in the bull, but quite often that simply is not a choice. And then you also have to understand that if you have limited resources, this costs you time to market and it costs you aggressiveness. So maybe you raise now at a lower valuation, but it allows you to capture more market share short to midterm, which again allows you to raise higher in a bull market. But then also winning market share fast is so important. So you need to execute faster because it's all about speed of execution, 100%. So you need to be fast as fuck. So that matters way more than the valuation, I would say. And if you need more money for that, raise. Just go out and raise. If you have enough demand so that you can raise, and you are limited by your resources financially, go out and raise. Because A, you can, and B, you need to grow faster. Otherwise, your competition will.
So to sum up that final thought, first of all, define if you need money in the first place from investors, right? Define if you need it, and then go raise. Just do whatever it takes, or just, what would that be in a very short sentence?
Yeah, so define if you need. And need comes from, I'm actually short on cash because just short on cash. Or I'm short of cash because I can't build what I need despite I'm having enough demand to justify that. So need can come from I need more resources or I need more breadth, essentially. If we need more breadth, you simply need more money. Go out and raise. And then obviously the better position is, hey, I have traction, more than I can handle. I need more resources to handle my demand. And then you should also go out and raise because then it's about winning market share as fast as possible. I would not sit it out. I think that's the sentiment.
Well, I would like to thank you so much for having the time and the transparency to talk to me and share your experience, because I do believe that this is going to be a very interesting conversation for a lot of people. Thank you so much for that, and I would like to wish you to get back to your coffee routine as soon as possible. This is important. Find your routine, coffee routine, and yoga routine. Please do, because, as you mentioned, it keeps you grounded, connected to yourself. And, well, as we can see, it helps you build better. So thank you so much, Philipp, for being a part of our podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, too. Can I ask one question back?
Of course. Yes.
You have so many books in your background. Which is the one you would recommend to read?
Depending on what would you like to read. Is it fiction?
What would you recommend a founder? It can be fictional. It can be fictional for him to get out of work for once. Or it can be around business or self-development, whatever you have, whatever you think is a good recommendation. And it can be fictional. It can just be a good story where like, this really got me out of my workplace.
All right, so the first one that I do have here, it's called How I Built This. It's a series of conversations with founders of different magnitude and different origins and different businesses, retail from tech. Um, that one they just had a podcast and wrote a book about it. The second one I do not possess yet, but I was in Paris just last week at Shakespeare and Company. I would really recommend everybody to visit that place. It's an independent bookstore. I will not talk a lot about books, but I can. So I wrote down, yes, I wrote down, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. This is the title that I wrote down, and this is about the kind of institutionalization of AI. I'm just curious about this. I'm just curious about this. That's what I recommend. And so this one I have in Russian. This is a history of the debt by David Graeber. It's just like my second
David,
native language is Russian.
David Graeber, The
Yeah,
Debt.
Graeber. Yeah, it's the history of debt, and I think every single person who wants to understand why we are where we are and how this thing called economy and global economy works, it is very interesting because it was all built on debt that is never going to be paid, and this even goes to tariff that is being handed out by Trump right now, and is this actually going to work? Are they going to pay their debt back? So it's a very interesting story. It's a very interesting. I just found
Amazing,
this in Russian,
Catherine.
so that's why. Yeah, thank you for
Thank you
asking. That's
so much for
very
your thank you so much for your book recommendations. I wrote them down.
Thank you. Hopefully you will like them, and most importantly, will find them useful. Thank you so much again, and yeah,
Thank you.
follow and subscribe the Buildooor.